good afternoon, good evening, everyone. Another exciting day, another exciting show. So today it is my pleasure and excitement to have with me consciousness and spiritual coach, Marc Abrams. And we are going to talk about lots of important and exciting subjects like auras, you being the creator of your reality, gifts and abilities, your third eye, spiritual guides, because you didn't come here alone, my loves. And we're going to talk also about parallel realities, how to access and connect to the new earth, to name a few, and even the Galactic Federation of Light. So are you ready? Guys, get cozy. Let's invite Marc into my little virtual studio. Good morning, Marc. Hi.
Good morning. How are you?
I am great. Thank you so much. I'm sure you're doing well too, although with the intense energies, it's been challenging.
There's always a challenge, but that's why we're here, to be able to experience the intense energies and work through it and reconnect with our truth. So
Yeah,
challenging yet exciting at the same time.
exactly. So, Marc, let's start with what on earth is happening right now with humanity. Tell us about that.
Okay, well, humanity's going through a mass awakening right now. So everything's being shaken up. And that happens when the energies ramp up and the field expands. So collectively, I think there's a bit of a dark night of the soul happening right now, where
Yes.
people are looking at the old comfortable patterns and being asked, do those still serve me? Or am I ready to step into something new or something unknown that really can be quite fearful? But that's how we're guided along. We want to face those fears.
Yeah, exactly. Like it's amazing times we are in right now.
Hmm.
And so how are we experiencing two worlds right now? Because I've heard you say this before, there's a new earth happening, and then there's the old earth talks here and there. So tell us about that. Like what's with that?
Well, it's all a matter of frequency. So the more, when we're born here, we're really anchored into a lower dimensional frequency. That gives us this identity of being human, right? And
Mm-hmm.
we're this identity of being separate from the real you, which is a limitless energetic being. So
Yes.
we have that innate within us because that's who we are, but we focus or compress down into a dense dimensional field to be able to kind of cut off from that to some extent and experience polarity from the perspective of being an entity or a separateness, being of separation, human, right? So we're focused in mainly into this third dimensional field, but we have the frequencies within us to experience a higher or a greater reality. And as we awaken, more of those higher dimensional frequencies become active within us. So it's like the scale starts to tip and you start to see the world through a different lens. You start to experience more gratitude, more abundance, more love, and yet you still have the ability to see and experience all of the suffering, all the fear, and all of the anxiety at the same time.
Yeah, it's cool. I'm like really fascinated by what's happening now and
Mhm.
by all that, because it is actually quite simple yet complicated because of
Yeah.
how also we perceive what's going on. And
Mhm.
perception also depends on our belief systems, our
Mhm.
limiting beliefs, our programming that we've had, since we're born.
Right.
So you've said before, you are the universe incarnated on earth
Mhm.
and the creator of your reality, which is where thoughts create. That's where it comes from. So let's talk
Mhm.
about that, the limiting beliefs and how the programming is affecting the reality that you're seeing out there.
Yeah, so, once we step into this field and we're born and we're young and we're very impressionable, what happens is our energy shifts, our focus shifts out into the field or into reality, and we start taking on everything we're taught, everything we see, other people's beliefs, And we essentially inherit that. We accept those as truth. So when that happens, we shrink ourselves down and turn away more from the truth of who we are, which is this divine energetic being. And we spend then, a lifetime essentially really on an unconscious level trying to move back towards that until maybe one day you have an experience that really brings that conscious. It makes it come forward. Like for me, it was awakening to my guides, right? Or having a, popping out of my body and having this amazing experience of all of this just divine wisdom rush through me in a matter of a few moments, right? So that awakens you and starts moving you down a different path because it's a remembrance really of who you are. So right now, I think what's happening is people are being asked, these beliefs about what this world looks like. Do they still serve you, or are you ready to step into something unknown or something new? So it's just like an awakening.
Yeah, exactly. Because like sometimes, and a lot of people wonder, well, how come you're so happy and how come you're so grateful? Can't you see the horrors going on out there and everything's falling apart? And then on the other side, you got people that say like, look how beautiful this rebirth is.
Mm-hmm.
Look how amazing what we're going through right now. Like how certain things will crash to exactly that, rebirth, something new. The perception of what you're seeing does come from that, and it does bring a lot of fear when a lot of people are, I would say, stuck in that perception of everything falling apart. So
Yeah.
how can we bypass that fear, that this programming we've had has been created, like creating this fear when you look at the world?
Well, I think you want to really understand why the fear is in place and
Mm,
why you're experiencing the fear. Because once you become conscious of that, you realize that essentially it's your ego, it's your programming that is wanting to keep you in the same reality because that's a known reality. And anytime that we have an opportunity to step outside of that into something new, the fear comes up. It's like, oh, let's turn away from the new, let's stay with the small. Okay. But when you
mm,
start to really expand and go through an awakening, what happens is you're really being guided into that new. And in order to move into that new space, the old has to start to crumble or has to start to fall away, right? You can't get to the new while
yeah,
still being anchored to the old.
no,
So you're
exactly.
being asked essentially on a higher level to let go of the old, and that's scary. So the best thing you could do is just be aware of that fear and feel the fear. Allow yourself to feel it. Don't try to fight so hard for the old because that's keeping you small.
Yeah,
You want to lean into the expansiveness and the fear and acknowledging the fear and feeling it and just breathing with it allows you to integrate that. And once you integrate that fear, that energy, it creates space inside your body for higher frequency light to land. So that new reality starts to come forward.
exactly. And that's why you're an amazing consciousness coach.
Yeah.
Because people need to hear that. They need to understand what's going on, because I think you've also said before, the cage is unlocked. We create this
Mm-hmm.
prison that we think we're stuck in, because of all these fears. If we can just let that go, and it's not easy because programming is, I mean, it's it's a big thing. It basically controls everything you're seeing.
Yeah. Well, as humans, the human perspective, we want to keep things predictable, right? We want to
Yes.
have,
Be safe.
we have expectations, and to stay within those makes us feel safe, like you say, right? But
Mhm.
in order to allow that expansion to occur, we're going to be asked by our higher self really to feel a little bit unsafe so that we could create space and bring more consciousness into the body. Okay. Because when I connect with my body, when I breathe into my body consciously, I start to feel safe, right?
Yes.
Because I'm bringing energy back in here. I'm not so focused out here as to what's happening with reality anymore. That makes me feel unsafe. So when I bring it back in here, then I start to feel safe within my body and energy starts to move. And I start to essentially let go of that old, expected, predictable, safe feeling reality. Right. So when you
Yes.
look out into reality, it's like, oh, things are wacky. I don't feel safe anymore. You bring it back in here because if you're anchored and grounded, you feel safe.
Yes, yes, exactly. The conscious breath, you know,
Mm-hmm.
bringing it back to the moment. And let's talk about that, like how we are living in the now all the time. But it appears to us like there is a past, a present, a future. Oh, I
Yeah.
fear the future because I'm actually more comfortable in my misery, which is familiar, versus
Yeah.
the new.
Isn't that interesting? That's a paradox,
Yeah,
isn't it? Right?
yeah, because the
It's like
new
even
is
though I'm
uncomfortable.
miserable, yeah, even though I'm miserable, it's known.
Yeah,
And
familiar.
your ego wants you to stay in the known, even if it is misery, right? And my Pleiadian guide she always says to me, she goes, the more you identify with the human condition, as the human, the more you will suffer.
Yeah. So the disconnect from uh, associating with all that's happening basically out there and become the observer of your reality
Hmm.
is also a good way to bring you back to the present moment and utilize this conscious breath because breathing is really bringing a sense of peace and safety, doesn't it?
Hmm. Yeah, your mind is always focusing on something, generally some sort of a problem that it perceives and is
Yeah,
trying to solve.
yeah,
So, but the interesting thing is, it may feel like your mind could focus on multiple things at once, but really it could switch very quickly between different things, right? But if you give your mind something to focus on that's productive, it will
mhm,
detach from what's going on out here and release that anxiety, that stress, and that fear. So, breathing consciously, focusing on your breath, and I mean like hand on your heart, for example, maybe
yeah,
hand on your solar plexus, and becoming your breath and moving it down into your body and fully feeling that, it shifts the focus of your mind into your body. So it
yeah.
lets go of all of that noise that's going on there out there, even if it's just for a moment, right?
Mhm,
That break, it's like hitting a circuit breaker, it breaks that
yeah.
cycle. And that
And that,
instantly you get present instantly.
yes, yes. And that noise is a good word because that noise out there, you know, is what we associate to because we think we are that we see, but really
Hmm.
what we are is inside
Yeah.
and projecting what we see. And like, would you say that's pretty accurate? Like, we're
Yeah.
projecting what we see?
Everything that we're experiencing is a projection essentially based on what's energetically happening within the body. So
Hmm.
when we're in our mind and we're overthinking, our mind is either in the past or it's in the future, right? It's trying to analyze so that it
Yeah,
could come up with a predictable way forward, right? But when you get present, all of that kind of collapses in and you
yeah,
start to feel peaceful because you're getting back to the truer nature of who you are.
yeah. And what is that? What is the true nature of who we are, Mark?
You're an energetic being. You are energy.
Yeah,
This body is simply energy or light compressed to the point where
yeah,
it becomes matter.
yeah. How awesome and amazing are we?
Hmm.
I mean, that we were able
Excuse me.
to
Yeah.
go from this huge oversoul and higher self ball of energy and just fractal ourselves down into a
Hmm.
physical form, into this human body to have this experience. And many of us are here right now from higher dimensions and higher realms
Hmm.
to assist with this ascension, this evolution that we're going through right now. So tell tell the audience, like, how are we connected to that higher aspect of us that fractal down here, like our oversoul and our higher self and spiritual guides, for example? Who are they? How are we
Mhm.
connected to all that up there?
Well, you are energy. So you are, I guess I don't, it's not that you're connected, you are this energy. So
Right.
think of it as though, you're an energetic being, your source. And I like to talk about it like a tree, right? So if you can imagine a tree, and a tree has branches, and and a tree has leaves. So as you move from the trunk of the tree, excuse me, which we could call source energy, you fractal down into these different aspects. So everybody kind of breaks off of that and they form an identity. Okay, so you come down here and you're, like you said, you're a fractal of the whole. But what's really happening is you're just focusing a part of your consciousness into a field that manifests as an identity. Okay, so that we can have this experience.
Yeah.
So that's how I see it. So I think from the human perspective, people feel like they have to try to reconnect. And when you think about that, you're really operating from a limited belief that you are
Right.
separate, right? That's the human condition, that you are separate. And let's face it, every morning we wake up, we look in the mirror, we see this physical being, right? So that
Yeah.
reinforces that limiting belief that you're separate, but you're
Right.
not separate. You're just a focused aspect of consciousness. And I think really removing that, reprogramming that limiting belief, kind of flipping to the other side of the coin and realizing that you are source energy opens up this opportunity to really start to perceive, not connect, but perceive
Right.
other aspects of you, other aspects of source, which are, it's your higher self, your guides, right? All of these other aspects of you that are just operating outside of this physical dimension.
Yeah, and on a macro level, of course,
Hmm.
we are source. Of course, we are all one. We are all this ocean that source is, let's say, and we're all little droplets of water from that. But that's
Yeah.
the point of this experience, isn't it? Is to actually feel like we are separate, like on the micro
Hmm.
level, I would say. We identify with this aspect that we are now, and we can then have each our own unique identity, unique experience, unique that has a connection. I guess we're
Yeah.
refinding, reconnecting to that aspect of us that is the higher self, that is the
Hmm.
spiritual guides and all of that, right?
Yeah, and I think, part of that experience was to come down deeper, lower in
Mm,
vibration, to
yeah.
really experience that being cut off, right?
Yeah.
And that creates a lot of
Yeah.
trauma. That creates a lot of trauma. And
Yeah.
when you think about it, and I always talk about this in my programs, but it's like when you're born as a human, as a baby, you can't do anything for yourself. You're completely reliant on others around you for survival, right? So that's very traumatic. That anchors you into this field of separation, this third dimensional field. So that really is a core, it's almost like a core experience or a core wound from my perspective, right? So now
Yeah.
you learn to be reliant on your environment. So then we start to judge everything in our environment. If I do this, am I safe? If I do that, am I safe? Right? So everything comes out of that
Yeah.
focus, and that's just by design, right? Being a human baby, by design, you're focused out into reality for survival. That's
Yeah.
just
Like,
that's just part of the experience. But we're on this awakening timeline, right? So
yeah.
we're starting to reconnect and remember who we are. So there was the
Yeah.
descension, and now there's the
Mhm.
ascension. So once you start
Yeah.
to awaken, then you really have the ability to walk this earth as a conscious being and still experience the polarity of the emotions, but do so from a more grounded, anchored, and conscious perspective. Instead of being
Yes.
reactive, we become more responsive.
Yeah. Well said, because this polarity. This is a world of duality. So no wonder everything is good, bad, dark, light. It's right or
We judge it
wrong.
all, right? We judge, and that's perfectly said, because that's what we do, is we judge it. We're always
Yeah.
unconsciously, everything that's
Yeah.
happening, we're judging, either consciously or unconsciously. How we weigh it. Is that good? Is that bad? It's always on a scale, right?
Yeah, just like that baby putting the finger in the socket. Ow, no, can't do that. Ouch.
Yep. Yep.
We're learning like that. And this is the thing a lot of people may not know yet that are just awakening, is that we chose to come here and
Hmm.
live this. We chose to come down to this most difficult playground that is Earth to experience that intense duality. Let's call it that,
Yeah.
because it's pretty much the toughest school in the whole universe, and we chose to come here because we knew we could do it, and also because we wanted to have this experience of the extremes, the
Hmm.
complete opposite of what we are, and what we are not is what we were living. And that's it. Right now we are
Yeah.
awakening to, hey, wait a second, I'm not just human. I'm not, wait a second, like,
Right.
this,
We're not limited, right? Yeah.
no, exactly. So I'm going to ask now, tell us, how did you spiritually awaken to all that? Like, what was your awakening like for you?
Well, I've always been my whole life into UFOs and
Mhm.
ghosts and spirit communication. All that was, I always had a very strong interest in that, and I always experienced intuitive nudges and synchronicities. So I knew there was something bigger out there. But it was in 2018. I mean, there were a lot of events that were happening one right after another.
Mm.
I remember we were in the Cayman Islands, my family, and I remember getting off the plane there, and all of a sudden, a song started playing in my head. It was called "The New Day Has Come" by Celine Dion. Just started playing over and over in my head. The whole week we were there, this song was present in my head, and I'm like, "What's going on here?" Okay, so I get home, and a week or so after, I'm watching. And this really explains like synchronicities and stuff, right? But
Right.
I'm watching, I think, Discovery Channel or something, and a show about Nikola Tesla comes on, and
Mm.
about the Akashic records, right? So I started, watching this show, and I'm like, that just resonated with me. So the next morning, I wake up and I see a guided meditation in my inbox for connected with the Akashic records.
Wow.
So I'm like, okay, so I'm going to follow this lead, right? So I get this guided meditation, and I'm listening to it. It's over the course of like 7 or 10 days. And in this guided meditation, they guide you into a room, and then there's animals that come forward. And there was this one animal in there that was with me. He comes forward, he's with me the whole time, and he's speaking to me, and we're having conversations in this guided meditation. And
Wow.
I was like, wow, this is totally amazing. Well, after the meditation was over, he connected with me outside of the meditation. I realized that was my spirit guide.
Wow. What animal was it?
He started out as um, a tiger, a zebra, a donkey. There were like three different manifestations of him as he came in, and
Wow.
um, and it was just incredible. So outside of that meditation, he came to me, and we just were connected ever since. And then shortly after that, probably within a month, the Galactic Federation came into. It was like a 10 or 11 o'clock on a Friday morning, much like this time right now, right? We're recording this. And I was
Yeah.
up in my family room, and three shafts of light appear in my foyer and started connecting with
Wow.
me. And then shortly after that, they brought forward my Pleiadian guide. And then I started having all of these other experiences with other guides coming forward. And they were not meditative experiences. These things were happening in the middle of the day. They were just
Wow.
coming to me. So it's not like I had to get into a meditative state or anything. They would just come forward, and I would have these very telepathic conversations back and forth with my guides, and I still do. So that's how it
Amazing.
happened. It was kind of like, and in the midst of that, I left out the biggest part. I was out right around the time, shortly after I connected with my guide, in my backyard, I was just sitting out, just enjoying some sunshine, listening to music, and I
Right.
popped out of my body.
Whoa.
And for a moment, I was above Earth in space, and I had all of this energy just rushing through me. All sorts of questions being answered, like, is there life elsewhere in the universe? And who
Right.
are we? All these types of things came through in an instant. And that was before the Federation came. Shortly after that, the Federation came forward.
I know a lot of people are awakening and having all sorts of experiences like that. And so many directions I can go with this right now. Like my head is just like so like buzzing with, but for me, my spiritual awakening was quite dramatic. Like after the huge scare of the world and everything, I was
Mm-hmm.
scared for my children, from my mom, from my family. And it was soon my son's birthday, a few days coming, and I thought, I cannot be like this. I cannot be in constant fear. I was dying of fear. Like I was just, and all of a sudden I decided to make a conscious effort, a switch to not be so worried. And it's almost like I had like a 180
Mm-hmm.
and popped up for the first time on my YouTube feed a video of somebody that was talking about extraterrestrials.
Okay.
And in that moment, I was confirmed that they do exist. And I can't believe I'm saying this publicly. It was so dramatic, Mark. I dropped on the floor on my knees and I was like, I knew it. I knew you existed. I knew it. And I was crying of joy. I was just like, all my life I was fascinated with extraterrestrials,
Yeah.
UFOs,
Mm-hmm.
and I saw one when I was about 8 years old. That's about the only time, but
Nice.
it was it was such a an interesting experience because the ship appeared across the my grandmother's house where all my family was sitting there having dinner, and it had a little pond, and on top of that pond it was circled like a plate and had a bowl, and it was orangey, very glowy, and it was
Mm-hmm.
just standing there. And I remember we all went out on the front lawn, and when I looked at it, I was stunned, and I remember turning to my uncle to see what he thought about it, but nobody else remembers this but me. And then it
Mm-hmm.
actually left from that spot and came forward like in a matter of zero point 0.5 seconds, and then went the other side, and it did like a triangle back and disappeared. And I thought,
Yeah.
wow.
Yeah. So that, that as we start to awaken and we start to let go of those limiting beliefs, we start to recognize that we're more than this body.
Mhm.
That those aspects, those energies start to reveal themselves more because we're allowing and we're accepting of it on some level. So that's more of the truth of the reality that we're from, right? Where all of these things
Mhm.
exist. So we just start to open
Yeah.
up to it. I remember when my mom, she passed away actually at her house. This was back in 2018, the end of 2018. There was a craft over her house.
Wow. Huh?
Over her house. Yeah. So
Wow.
I've had other experiences seeing them since I awakened. I've seen them obviously more, but it just becomes more of a normal part of reality, right? Because we expand into a new reality and that these types of things just exist. And somebody who's focused into a 3D reality purely and living more from a fear or separate perspective, it's not that these things don't exist for them. They're just not looking in that direction. They're not open to these possibilities.
Yeah. And I haven't seen one since. And I was just like 7, 8 years old. And my awakening was 2022 on
Yeah.
February 22, 2022.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But ever since then, I've been pulled with this intense passion to learn and know and sponging knowledge. Like you just get into this, wow, I want to know more. I want to know more. And you're
Oh, I've been through it.
fascinated, right?
I remember. And, my guides used to tease me about that. Really, they did. Because, something would happen and I'd be like, wow, is this happening? And I go right to the internet. I'd start looking it up. Like, does anybody have
Yeah.
this kind of experience? I think, and when I awakened, I didn't know really what a spiritual awakening was. Like I said,
Oh, yeah.
it was just these things started happening and I popped out of my body. I was like, whoa. Then I realized that there's a whole community of people out there that are starting to experience things like this, right? But I didn't know, but I would always go to the internet. I'd want to learn more about everything. And
Yeah.
like my guide would, he'd almost tease me about it. He'd be like, go research it, right? Go check it, right? We, we're being asked to trust.
Yeah.
And I think the further along in your journey, you're going to realize that, you know what, this is just what it is. It's just part of this expansion, and I'm good with it. And I just allow it to come through however it does.
Yeah, yeah, and it's fascinating. You don't really, well, you chose to be on this awakening journey. You chose to be on the ascension path on a
Mm-hmm.
soul level, but when you're not awakened to it yet, you don't know that. But when you are awakening, it's almost like you can't help it. You can't help but want to know more and expand to all these new
Right.
possibilities and new awarenesses that is presenting itself to you in so many ways. Like all of a sudden you're like, hey, I'm a star seed. What is a star seed? Oh wow, like
Mm-hmm.
I'm connected to this particular race. Oh wow, there's so many other beings in the universe and I didn't even know they existed, for sure. Like the Pleiadians, for example.
Yeah. And my Pleiadian guide has told me numerous times, and I think this is important for everybody who's watching this to hear. Okay.
Yeah.
So if you're experiencing fear and you're feeling like this can't happen for me, or I'm not part of this, well, first of all, if you're listening to this, there's something within you that has brought this to you into your experience, okay, to act
Yeah.
as a reminder. But my Pleiadian guide has told me that they are just in awe of the fact that I was the one that chose to come down into this level of separation and
Yeah.
have this experience, because it is not easy. Okay.
Yeah.
So if you find that you're struggling with this, I mean, it's just you're supported, you're loved, and you're amazing for actually choosing to come into this dense dimensional field and have this kind of experience and really cut yourself off from the truth of who you are. So, I
Wow.
mean, much love to those here. And everyone has the ability to open back up. And if you're seeing this for the first time, this is a nudge in that direction. Okay, that you're starting
Yeah.
to open up. So just continue to follow your intuition and you'll be guided.
Mark, that was so beautifully said. Like, it's almost, I can see others watching this with tears in their eyes because I've been there. I
Mhm.
found conversations and videos that have made me tear up in relief, in hope, in, oh wow, I'm not alone. I'm not
Yeah,
alone feeling like this. Like I'm not alone seeing strange things, or like it. Yeah, that. Thank you for that. That was really beautiful because I think a lot of people may need to hear that. Only the bravest, the most courageous souls are
brave and
here right
courageous. Yes.
now.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
also, I think a lot of people think that like this is all love and light, right? It's really about diving into the darkness
Hmm.
and revealing that light, finding that light within in the midst of all the darkness. So if you're feeling cut off, if you're feeling heavy, dense, maybe a little bit sad, and like you're watching this or you have a strong interest in these types of topics, you're right where you need to be. Okay, because we don't want to discard any aspect of us, even the ones that have been traumatized that are in fear. We want to love all of these aspects. So I always tell people that I work with, right? Because people have experiences and they try to maintain a high vibration to
Yeah.
continue having those experiences. But we need to come down and finally face all of these unprocessed traumas and emotions that have been weighing us down. We need to bring them into the light. So if you're feeling scared, fearful, anxious, that's a call to sit with that because you're being guided into that because that is the way forward.
Yeah. And Mark, let's talk about that. These emotions that, because I've been there too, when you are awakening and you hear about the highest timeline, and you can only get there if you're feeling super high, super happy,
Yeah.
super, and you're going through a dark night of the soul, and you're like, oh shit, I'm failing because
Yeah.
I'm not happy and giddy and joyful at this moment. So let's talk
Hmm.
about how important all emotions are valid. All emotions want to be seen and
Yes.
acknowledged, and that the reason we're having a dark night of the soul is because these emotions and these maybe traumas are coming up to the surface, not to be hated on, not to be rejected and thrown in the trash like they're not important, but to be seen and loved
Hmm.
so it can actually be released. Let's talk about how important honoring and acknowledging all emotions is.
That is the real work. That is the real work.
Yeah.
That is what that is on a daily basis what we want to do. Because when we get traumatized, say you have a trauma, it's almost like taking a piece of you, tearing it off, and tucking it down into the basement and saying, I don't want to see or hear or deal with you anymore.
Mm.
So the more that we do that, we fragment, we become more separate, and our energy slows down. So we start having less of a whole experience, more of a fragmented experience. And when you're having fragmented experiences day in, day out, you're focused into the field, you're focused into reality as to what's happening in your life, and you're not focused into what's happening within your body because a part of you is missing essentially, right? That's what trauma is. And your ego wants to keep you safe from that trauma, so it doesn't want you to have to feel
Yeah.
it, right?
Yeah.
So when you're on this awakening path, what happens is these aspects that were ripped away start to reveal themselves. They start to return.
Yeah.
And you have a choice in that moment. Now, if you're unconscious, you're not conscious in that moment, what'll happen is you're going to want to run from it because your ego's in control. You're going to say, I don't want to feel that. Let me go distract myself. Let me
Or
go get a
and
drink.
suppress, yeah, and
Yeah.
suppress that emotion.
We suppress it,
Yeah.
or we could suppress it by distracting ourselves. I'm going to
Yeah.
go get a drink, or I'm going to go do this, or I'm going to go do that, right? When what's happening is this part of you wants to be integrated, it wants to come back into the whole, it wants to join you. And we do that by simply loving it. It's just looking to be seen. It wants to be seen, it wants to be felt, and it wants to be loved. Okay, because on some level we discarded it at some point in our life. So when you're going through that darkness, essentially what's happening is you have an opportunity to start gathering up all of these fragments of energy. And the more you gather these up, and we gather them up by feeling them, right? And being present with them, the more whole we become. And the more whole you become, the more your vibration increases. You start to be able to move up into higher dimensional fields, and you start to have all of these amazing experiences because you're operating from a higher level of consciousness. So the way
Yeah.
in is the way down.
Yeah.
That's the way through it, right? A lot of times I think
Yes.
people want to go up here, but they're going up here with all of this intense weight
Hmm.
anchoring them down, and they can't maintain that higher frequency. So
Yeah.
we want to cut the it's like a hot air balloon, right? Tethering us to a 3D reality. We want to go around and find and cut all of those ropes that are anchoring us. So we look down, not up. And when you do that, you start feeling into all of these emotions and loving them. Your frequency starts to rise, and you're able to maintain a higher baseline. So your reality starts to shift.
Yeah. A couple of places I want to go with this, because the fragmented pieces of us,
Mhm.
it not only happens in this life, right? It
Yeah,
happens from the trauma our soul carries from other lives, and I'm gonna say past lives for now,
that's okay. Yeah.
but it's more parallel lives, and we'll
Yeah.
talk about that. But yeah, so these fragmented pieces of us, we can call them shadows,
Mhm.
and that's why the term shadow work, because not only do they want to be seen, but they want to be reintegrated as
Yeah.
a whole of us, because it is part of us. And so I remember myself being there, and it's not easy, because when you are in the shadow work, in the dark night of the soul, first of all, you don't know when it's showing up for you. You don't know
Mm-hmm.
when it's happening. You can be one day super happy, and then another day something triggered that, or it's
Yeah.
ready to come up,
Yes.
and you're facing it. You're in it, and when you're in it,
Mm-hmm.
you may not necessarily remember that it's a gift. It's a
Yeah.
good thing. Embrace and love your sadness,
Yeah.
because it is it is a gift that needs an emotion that needs to be honored. Because if you can only do that, if you can only just wear your fuzzy socks, wear your jogging pants, go take a
Mm-hmm.
salt bath, go and just sulk with a tree outside, go for a
Yeah.
walk, or just stay in bed all day if you have to. But
Mm-hmm.
love it and honor it as much as you can, because I know it's not easy. And don't worry about, oh, I'm failing being on my highest timeline right now. I'm not there where they are, because you, Mark, have said this too before. You're exactly where you need to be,
Yeah. The
right?
first thing is and that's the thing is like people, a lot of times they'll want to be at this high vibration and they want to feel really good,
Yeah,
and stuff keeps coming up, and they're like, no, it's rejected right away, right?
yeah,
That's our programming. It's like, so I'm doing something wrong. I
yeah,
don't want to feel that way, or I shouldn't feel that way. I know
yeah.
better.
We
But
judge it.
that we judge it, and that's the path forward. It's sitting with that energy. And how do we sit with it? There's techniques I teach and things where in my programs where we get in and we breathe with it, but it starts with allowing it to be there, allowing it to be
Yeah,
present. We can't move through it and alchemize it without accepting it, right? So you want to
yeah,
accept it. But I want to share a funny story with you, because when I
yeah.
was shortly after I awakened, and this goes into the parallel past lives thing, but I kept seeing, my guide kept sending me this image of a door, and this door was open. It would be up here, and all of these beings were lined up behind the door, and some were ET beings,
Wow.
alien looking beings, some were human beings. And I asked him, I go, what's going on with this? He goes, Mark, those are all aspects of you lined
Wow.
up, ready to come through, to be seen and to be loved.
Wow.
So all of these traumas from other lifetimes are coming forward now. So I guess you could say, when they say if you're traumatized or near death and it's traumatic, you see the lights and you want to go to the light. What he said to me, he goes, you're in that moment, you're that light. You're the light that they're all wanting to find and move towards.
Wow.
So we hold the space for that. And that's why this incarnation is so powerful and
Yeah.
so important, and yet very challenging, not easy, because we are healing generations of aspects of us, not just human but non-human. All of these traumas that have occurred in all, or occurring in all of
Yeah.
these other incarnations, are coming through here, to be loved, to be seen, to be reintegrated. And once they move through you and you integrate that energy, you bring it back in, all of that knowledge, all of that knowing, all of those gifts that
Yeah.
they held, that they learned, all of those experiences start to come online for you here. So we
Yeah.
start to remember. We're reconnecting all
Yeah.
of it.
And the image I got is like all your other incarnations on other planets, in other realms, in other experiences you've had. When you were saying that, I kind of saw like a bunch of yous in dressed differently,
Yeah.
looking different, all coming back from the battleground.
Mm-hmm.
The
Mm-hmm.
wounded soldier,
Yeah.
like that just wanted to come back home. Just wanted to come back home.
Exactly. And all of that wisdom, all of those experiences essentially become available to us when we reintegrate that energy. It's like we're bringing them back in
Yeah.
and we
And
become them. So it's more whole. We're becoming more whole.
yeah, and a good way to see it too, if somebody can't understand this higher dimensions aspect, it's like here in this life, if one day you want to go rollerblading and you fell and your knees are bruised, and another day you're like, oh, I think I'm gonna go and jump off a cliff just for fun, and you broke
Yeah.
your arm, and so imagine all those days each and every one of you in those experiences coming back. Oh, I'm hurting here. Oh, my knee's hurting there.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, shoot, I gotta
Some
bruise
sort of
here.
trauma, right? Yeah.
Yeah. So those are little shadows. They're little aspects of you that got hurt along the way of testing
Yeah.
new things, experiencing new
Mm-hmm.
lives, and you're bringing that home, and that is beautiful. It's actually a beautiful thing because
Yeah.
now that it doesn't happen so much anymore, but now if I do have a shadow moment, a shadow day, I love me for it.
Mm-hmm.
I love
And
me.
that's a huge flip. Because like I said, like instinctually, or well, it's really programming, right? We like to think we're doing something wrong. Like, why am I feeling this way? But when you
Yeah.
start to realize that, you know what, I'm here right now experiencing this because it's ready to be seen. That just changes your perspective. It allows you to just slow it down and be present with
Yeah,
it and accept it and be like, all right, let's do this.
yeah,
And you do that,
exactly.
and then you come out of it more whole, more
Yes.
healed.
And sometimes it's an ugly cry, but I've told myself you're just beautiful
Hmm.
right now with your tears.
Yeah.
I mean, you have to love every emotion, every aspect of you. And so it brings me here to time. We've talked about these past lives, which we're going to call parallel lives instead,
Hmm.
because that's actually what they are. How are our past lives actually parallel lives? Because you've said this before, and I'd like you to expand on that a bit. Time is an illusion. That's why everything is happening all at once. But how is that
Yeah.
possible?
It's interesting because it's a really hard thing to comprehend from the human perspective.
Mm-hmm.
But time is a set of moment after moment after moment, a perceiving of moment after moment after moment, so that we can generate an experience. Okay, and we can
Yeah,
kind of make decisions and have free will and course correct and move through a lower dimensional field. But from that human perspective, when you come down, and I mean, it's probably easier to illustrate it, but you come down from a continuity in a quantum field into a separation, and that are really like different timelines, right? So we're constantly moving throughout our day through these different timelines based on our frequency, and our frequency is what taps us into certain timelines. But the way I explain it
yeah.
is, think of a wheel. Okay, so you have a wheel, and the wheel's got a hub, and there's spokes, right, going
Mm-hmm.
out to the rim of the wheel. So in 3D, essentially, we're like the rim of the wheel. We're moving from along the rim from spoke to spoke to spoke to spoke. Okay, so each spoke is like another moment. But if you turn your view and you, instead of moving along the rim, you start to travel up the spoke to the hub, we could consider that like fifth dimensional space. Then from the hub, you can look down and see all the spokes at once. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
You see them all at once, right? But when you're on the rim, all you see is the next spoke.
yeah. Well
Okay, so that's really
explained.
the best way that I use to describe time. But time is an experience. It's a function of this reality. Okay, we need time, and we need space, and we need gravity to really create this universe, right? To have this continuity of effect and to determine motion, to be able to experience motion. So it's all wrapped up in that. But when we're operating from a higher state of being, time is less manifest, it's less prevalent. You're able to move into all these different experiences essentially simultaneously. So,
Yeah, and we needed time because of the density of the 3D
mhm.
on Earth here, anyways, before, because now this is shifting. It's going to 5D at least, if not
Mhm.
more. But we needed that time for our mind to compart. Whoa, that's the word.
Compartmentalize.
Yeah, that was my
Yeah.
French kicking in. But yes, that into a past and a present and a future,
Yeah.
because our mind is was unable to comprehend that all this is
The
actually happening.
vastness. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it creates a continuity experience. Okay.
Yeah.
So if I want to make a choice on how I want to do the next thing, then I need to have that continuity to be able to have that experiences to see or experience how that plays out in a
Yeah.
dimensional field, a field of separation, right? But when you get outside of that into the quantum effect, and science is proving this now from a human perspective, the concept of local, right? So things can be affected across space, vast areas of space simultaneously without actually traveling from one point to the next. So it shows that we're all connected. Everything's really simultaneous.
Yeah.
But we're having this experience right now. And as our consciousness expands, and you may have noticed this, Caroline, already with your experiences, but the concept or the idea of time and how you experience time is going to shift as well. You're going to
Yeah.
realize that you have a little bit more control over how you experience the flow of time based on how focused and how conscious you are in the moment. And a good example of that is getting into a flow state and be
Yeah.
hyper focused on something you're doing. It changes the perspective or the experience of how quickly time passes.
Yeah, yeah, and we're moving to the quantum field with this, but I
Mm-hmm.
want to say that time is an illusion,
Mm-hmm.
and it is true that I'm sure lots of people have been feeling this, like, where did the day go? I just got up this morning and already like
Yeah.
already nighttime, like because time is speeding up because of our frequencies rising as a collective, as
Yeah.
humanity together is working through to the ascension. Everything is speeding up because of that. Because up there's no time, right? So moving more up there,
E-
it's
Yeah, and that's an interesting one too, because I got a kind of a unique perspective on that.
okay. Tell
Um,
us.
because as we feel time speeding up because all of these high frequency expansive energies we're perceiving pushes you out of your body more and into your field.
Right.
Okay, so the more ungrounded we become, I feel that we experience time as passing faster. But when you bring it back into the body and you anchor this energy into the body, because of gravity and consciousness, and that's a whole other discussion. Okay, that was part of the
Right.
information I received initially with gravity and its effect on time. The more conscious you become, the more you actually have a profound effect on how time passes in your own experience. So I've
Right.
heard coaches say, well, someone will say to a coach, like, well, how do I need more time throughout the day. I don't feel like I'm organized. I can't get enough done and whatever. And they'll say, well, let's get into time management and how can we compartmentalize your day and make it, eliminate things that really aren't necessary and create more time. But when you get more focused, more present, more conscious in the
Mhm.
moment, time slows down for you. So it's not about having enough time. It's really about being more focused, present, and conscious, getting more into a super conscious or gamma brainwave state where you're more
Right.
energized. Time actually slows down and you are so much more productive and get so much more done. So as we move up into the fourth dimensional field, time is going to become pliable based on your level of consciousness. I guess that's the way to summarize it.
Yeah, yeah. Being grounded is another very important thing, and we can
Mm-hmm.
do that. And to me, I've always had this image of like Superman going to the sun and
Yeah.
having all this light come in. And so we are almost like becoming superhuman, like Superman here on Earth. We're absorbing all this light and we need to ground it. So I can almost see like we're like, I got this, I'm anchoring this, I
Yeah.
got this.
And the more and the
And
more we're in that, the more that light is trying to push us out of our field and expand us, the more anxious we become. We become ungrounded.
yeah,
We become more stressed, more anxious. We get into a lack mentality. I don't have enough time. Right? Time's moving too
yeah.
fast. But once
Hmm.
you become present, you bring it in and you integrate that energy. You get stuff done so effectively, so efficiently because you're so much more present that you'll find that you have an abundance of time. So it
Yeah,
changes your whole perspective because time is relative. It's really
That too,
relative
yeah.
based on your level of consciousness.
Yeah. And how can one ground? Like, I mean, I know I love to touch trees. I love to go and walk in nature, connect with Mother Nature,
Hmm.
connect with the birds and hear them and take a moment. What other ways can a person ground themselves when we're receiving so much light on the planet?
Well, anything that brings your attention to what you're doing in the moment. So, like, the earth will help us take that charge. The earth is just waiting to assist us in
Mm.
taking that charge. Because think about it, when you're ungrounded, you're like an overcharged battery, right? You've got all this
Yeah,
charge and it needs to go somewhere. So, grounding is really connecting to the earth. So, for me, it starts by connecting with the body. Okay,
all
connecting with your
right.
body and using breath to do that. But you could take salt baths. You could go out. You could wrap your arms around a tree and be. And the important thing is being present with that, because when you're present with that and you allow yourself to feel the energy, it will anchor or ground into the planet. Because really, what we're doing is bringing that energy down through us into the planet, because the
Yeah,
planet's ascending as well, right? So we're assisting in that process. That's the grid work that you've talked about, that you've been doing, and those types of things. But connect with your body first. Get present in the body, and then what you could do is connect through your root chakra into the planet and bring that visualization into your breath and move energy down into the planet and back up into your heart space and wherever you're called and guided to focus on. Okay, but the
yeah.
body is the bridge. That's the gateway.
Because that is so important, because I've said it before, we are a soul having a human experience. So
Hmm.
we're not a body that has a soul, we are a soul that has a body.
Yeah.
And so we need to, that's kind of our job, or our game right now, is we need to ground this body to earth as a being that is part, a cell of the earth, part of earth. And we're connecting at the same time with higher consciousness and
Hmm.
earth, and we need to hold all of those two together. And the grounding is very important, and people are going to feel
Yeah.
more calm,
Hmm.
less
We're here to
anxious.
bring that here. We're here to bring more of who we are here. Right?
Yeah,
It's you, and the energy, the energy that you're receiving, the energy that's coming in from the central sun through our sun, all of this cosmic energy is you. It's you returning. So consciousness is streaming in, and it's looking for that assistance from the human part of you to create the space within the body so that we can anchor it, we can hold it here in this field.
yeah. Isn't it beautiful and amazing?
Hmm.
And that takes me to a consequence, or I should I say, a gift, a result of all that happening, by
Yeah.
us connecting more to a higher awareness, a higher consciousness, by bringing us, more of us, down here. That's when we get to remember our gifts and abilities
Yes.
and the skills, those skills we've developed by having other experiences. Let's
Yeah.
say, on another planet you develop the skill of telepathy, and on another planet or in another experience you've developed the skills of bending spoons, and this other
Hmm.
one you can hear clairaudience,
Hmm.
clairsentience, you can hear your guides, you can hear God. Let's talk a bit about the gifts and abilities that people are coming into and awakening to, remembering right now.
Oh, it's all sorts of abilities. And realistically, I mean, realistically, it's one expression. It's one expression of
Right.
consciousness. Now, when we move our energy through our body, it manifests according to our energetic makeup. So if you've had experiences in other lifetimes where you had a very telepathic ability, your energetic makeup is essentially predetermined to really start to manifest that initially,
Yeah.
right? Because it's the most known while you're here. We bring it all in within our DNA, it's all locked up. But some of these
Right.
abilities that we've chosen to develop are more inherent in this lifetime. They're more active. So as you start to ground and anchor and move through some of that darkness and feel it all and start to raise your vibration, those are the ones that generally start to come into your experience initially. But there's so many, and we as humans like to label them, right? There's this, 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 and this, and this, but
Yeah.
it's really all an expression of consciousness based on experiences that we've had or we're having that are starting to come through at first. So I've had things happen to me that I didn't even know from this human perspective existed, but obviously it's been locked away in my DNA. And as I continued to ground and anchor and navigate the darker stuff, they started to come online where I've had like bilocation experiences where I'd be sitting
Wow.
at a desk, just sitting there. I could even be talking to somebody sitting at my desk. I used to be an accountant, right? As I worked in an office. During the day, all of a sudden, I'd have this experience open up simultaneously of me being on a craft with an ET looking being flying at the same
Yeah.
time. And I could actually relay that experience while it's happening to the person that's sitting across from me. I mean, it was that vivid, like bilocation experiences, right? These are the types of things you don't normally think about, but they're possible. And when you think
Yeah.
about it from a logical perspective, it's like if I'm expanding into less dense realities, then some of these other experiences, other realities, other lifetimes are going to start to become
Yeah.
known to me right here, right now. And
Yeah.
that's
And
what's
that's,
possible.
yeah. And it's amazing. It's like we're becoming superhumans on a
Exactly. Yeah.
human perspective, right? And that's probably what happened to me because just one time in meditation, it's only happened once,
Mm-hmm.
but I was living somewhere different on the fourth floor of an apartment. So somehow
Yeah.
it seemed to have made a difference. But all of a sudden, this is so weird. I felt myself inside a triangular spaceship craft, a
Okay.
one person. It was just me sitting there. It was just for one person. But at the same time, I would see myself there. I could also feel myself in it. Like
Yeah.
at the same time, in it and
That's how I was
observing
too.
it. And
Yeah,
I
yeah,
was, wow,
exactly. You're observing it and you're in it. And I was having a conversation with this being that was on the craft. And I remember it vividly. I
wow,
remember what the inside of it looks like. We were actually moving past Saturn, and he was
wow,
working with me, showing me imagery and basically awakening within me the potential or the ability to transfer information using imagery because it's so much more powerful than language, right?
wow.
You could transfer so much information through an image emotionally more so than you could with the language because the human language is a 3D type of thing, right? It's step by step,
Yeah,
word by word by word, right?
yeah.
So I remember him working with me through that and later realized that, yeah, it's an aspect of me, right? These
Well,
other
that's
beings
the
are aspects
thing.
of you.
Yeah, that's the thing. It is the quantum field, it is infinite,
Mm-hmm.
and all these experiences, these aspects, other aspects of us that exist out there, because time is an illusion, we can't really understand this fully here yet, but it's
Mm-hmm.
happening all at once. It's all in the now. And that's why this bilocation you're saying is all of a sudden you're having this fragment of connection to that other you that's living
Yeah.
that while you're here.
Mm-hmm.
Isn't it
Yeah, and
fun?
I've been on, bigger craft, Galactic Federation craft, Pleiadian
Yeah.
craft, and interacted with other beings. And I mean, I couldn't put a label on what they were or who they were. I was just having the experience, and it's just these things just kind of pop up, right? When you're ready to open up and perceive them, there they are.
Yeah, and you mentioned this again, and I want to talk about who is the Galactic Federation of Light.
Well, that's an expression of our higher consciousness. Okay. So again, when we're looking at who we are, everything that you've heard the expression, right? Everything that you experience is a reflection of you, right?
Yeah, yeah,
So all of these different aspects are reflections of source, which is who we are. But from this perspective, from the human
yeah,
perspective, we experience these beings as separate, and they play a role in our journey, in our experience from a higher dimensional field. So we open up to some people. maybe are programmed or have had a very religious upbringing. I don't like to use programmed, but
Right.
that's just their belief, right? It's
Yeah.
religion. Okay. So maybe they experience angels, right? Or they maybe
Yeah.
experience demons. If you're more, into like UFOs and ETs and that kind of thing, some of these energies, they start to manifest now as just that, right? So I think
Mhm.
we're at, a lot of us who are awakening have had these experiences in different um, solar systems and planetary
Yeah.
experiences and things like that. And those experiences are coming back to help us awaken to who we are. So they're represented as this galactic federation. Okay, so it's like a remembrance of the experiences that we've had as we were kind of coming down and descending. So they're higher dimensional versions of us. So as we
Yeah.
increase our consciousness, we start to elevate up into a field where we could start to communicate and connect with them. So the Federation represents, they're holding space, they're observing, they're watching us
Right.
accomplish this experience or this mission of ascension, and they're supporting us in that role and helping to remind us of who we are.
Yeah, because it's been said they comprise of, let's say, a being from the Pleiades, and a being from the Andromeda, and a being from Arcturus, and a being
Yeah.
from, like, they are a council, I suppose, or a group of many different aspects
Hmm.
of us, many different other um, beings, civilizations, races,
Yeah.
extraterrestrial races that
Yeah.
have chosen to play that role, but it's still all aspects of
It's all
us.
consciousness, right?
Yeah,
Yeah, it's
exactly.
just how it expresses. And it expresses based on where we're at, each one of us individually. So where our level of
Mhm.
consciousness is how we're going to open up and perceive these energies. So if we have fear, so like if when I was young, I had a tremendous fear of ETs. Uh,
Yeah.
that initially, um, you may have, as they come into your field to hold space for you and awaken these aspects, you may move through some of that fear. You may be guided into some of that fear to alchemize that energy to restore a connection with these higher aspects of consciousness or these ET beings. So for me, the Federation worked with me early on to work through some of the fears I had. I remember, like my dad, we went and saw Close Encounters of the Third Kind, which is like one of my favorite movies. Back in the 70s, when I went and saw
Yeah.
it, I was terrified. I mean, it terrified me. And I used to have these events once a year in the middle of the night where I was visited by a being that was very
Wow.
terrifying for me. So I had trauma
Right.
and I had fear. And I remember I learned recently that those events happened to kind of further cut me off at that time so that I could go through and have a lot of experiences until I was ready to fully awaken and re-embrace all of that. Right. So
Wow. Amazing.
sometimes these energies manifest in a way initially that are fear based. And they're just
Mhm.
holding space to allow that fear to come forward, that programming to come forward, so that we can alchemize that energy. And once that you alchemize that, the connection to these beings shifts from maybe sometimes darkness to light. If you
Yeah.
have those fears, it could be religious trauma too. Same
And like they
thing.
say, there's always a light at the end of the tunnel.
So you're
So even,
manifesting all of it. You're manifesting all of
yeah.
it, really, is what it is. It's just based on what frequency is it coming forward? What do you need to alchemize, right? If I had that little terrified boy in me that's terrified of
Mm.
ETs, and here's this ET presence, that boy's going to come up and say, let's run from this.
Yeah.
I don't know how to handle it now. And I have to be
Mm.
the one to stand in the light and say, no, no, this is us. These are our friends returning. It's okay. And we
Yeah.
alchemize that. And they come in and they help
Yeah.
us to do that.
Yeah, exactly. And part of all this that we're saying is everything is frequency.
Hmm.
And that's why a lot of people think that when us moving our evolution to 5D, to new Earth, is not really a place we're going to.
Yeah.
New earth is a frequency. I've heard you say that before, and it's so well said. So talk about that a little bit, how the new earth that we're having, like the old earth and the new earth, and that is a frequency. Why is it not a place we're going to?
Well, from a higher perspective, like the place doesn't exist really. It's just all a manifestation of energy, right? When we're talking the quantum field, there's really no time, there's no space, there just is. But we're moving towards that. So all of these ideas that we have that physics tells us is real, Newtonian physics tells us is real, are starting to loosen their grip. So as we raise our vibration, our reality becomes higher vibrational, higher frequency, meaning less dense, right? Less solid, more pliable. And that goes with space and that goes with time, right? So these things become
Mm-hmm.
more pliable. And that's why, like, manifestation starts to move faster and happen faster because things are less rigid, less fixed. So when we talk about new earth, it's just bringing forward or activating these frequencies within, and we activate these frequencies within by feeling the darkness, right? So
Mm-hmm.
we go through the darkness and we start to activate these, and then our reality before our eyes really starts to shift. And like you've had those experiences with the craft and with UFOs and things, we start to open up to a reality where that happens, where we start to experience more love on a day-to-day basis, where you'll be walking through the store and people will be smiling at you. You'll start feeling gratitude. All of these higher emotions, higher frequency emotions start to become more present throughout your day. That is the
Yeah.
beginnings of the manifestation of new earth, like animals coming up to you and being safe,
Yeah.
feeling safer around you. All those types of experiences start to happen, and that is moving towards that new earth.
Yeah. And because everything is frequency, we're coming back full circle here to how we
Mm-hmm.
started talking about creating our reality. Like,
Mm-hmm.
creating our reality is manifesting. We're constantly manifesting something. uh,
Always. Mm-hmm.
but isn't it based on the frequency that you're holding,
Yeah.
uh, or that you're at inside, right?
What you experience is a reflection of the frequency that you're holding. Now, a lot of the times it's unconscious because of the trauma, right? You're not aware of what your thoughts are, but yet the universe is
Mm.
aware of your thoughts, and that's manifesting in your field. So the more conscious we become of what's happening within us energetically and what our thoughts are, the more we have a conscious choice over how to feel and what to think. So when you
Yeah.
start shifting that, then you start to be able to shift timelines and start to
Yeah.
manifest realities that are actually consciously chosen by you instead of chosen by your traumas, by your programming, and by your limiting beliefs.
Exactly, because we're unconsciously manifesting something most of the
Yeah.
times. I mean, all the time before we are awakening. But when we are awakening, it gives us an opportunity to have a better feeling thought, a
Hmm.
better feeling. And all of this is part of how we manifest. And see, maybe I'm not fully there yet to understand the projection, because I came across something that I'm still pondering. There is a
Hmm.
projection, but there's also a mirror and a reflection, and not all three are the same. Because we think it's always a reflection of us, but sometimes it's a mirror and sometimes it's a projection from others. Although technically there's no others, but I'm
Yeah.
still pondering that. Um,
Yeah. And that
I had.
that's common. Yeah, that's common to kind of like, we want to delineate these things. We want to kind of separate them out and
Mm,
understand from the human side what all of these mean.
yeah.
But if you're recognizing something in someone, that is something that you have within you that is being seen in the moment. So, um, if somebody gets triggered or triggers you, right? There's something coming up from that situation that they're helping you see in that moment. So it's allowing you to become more conscious. So I think it's more important to be focused and aware of what you're feeling emotionally in the moment, because it's really the emotions that do the manifesting. The thoughts are just the manifestation of the emotion, right? But it's the emotions that really create everything. So the more aware we are of our emotions, the more empowered we become over our reality. Okay. When you're a slave to your emotions, then you're going to be a slave to your reality. Okay. When you're in control of your emotions, then you're going to have control over your reality. And everybody that comes into your experience that you interact with is really that reflection of what's happening inside you at that moment.
Right. And see, and this is where I think this is the first time I say this too, but I think this is where I'm glitching with that, because I still believe in the projection, the mirror, and the reflection, because it's almost like an ego dependency to think that everything that that you see in someone else or that you see out there is actually a reflection of you. So I'm going to leave it at that, because it's very interesting how I'm still working through this belief I have, but it resonates very true with me to separate that.
And that's
Separate it right now.
yeah, that just depends on what perspective you're seeing it from. But remember, for you to have an experience or a thought about something, you have to have that within you, right? And if we're all, in order to notice it, in order to be aware of it, so you have some sort of an idea or some sort of an emotion about it, there's something active within you in that moment that is allowing you to become aware of something. Okay. So that's how we, because people say, well, you could use the mirror. A mirror is a reflection, right? You could use that reflection to help guide you. You could use that reflection to help do that deeper inner work, right? But as you continue on your journey, you're going to start to realize, because if we are all connected and you truly believe that we are all one, then we all have really a lot of similar things happening, right? We all, at least on a quantum level, have access to be able to see what somebody's doing and find a space of compassion for that within us. Okay. So sometimes what somebody else may be doing is leading you to that opportunity to align in that moment, instead of judge, but to hold compassionate space for somebody, right? So that's leading you back to center. So that's how we use all of these experiences that we have throughout our day to start to lead energetically and start to be able to help us get more aligned. Because everybody's helping us get aligned.
Yeah, because on a macro level, yes, we are all one, but on a micro level here, because what about empaths? Because the empaths, they kind of reflect back to someone, and then that's being projected. Maybe that's where I was going with that, but
it's really their energy. Yeah, it's really their energy. So when you walk into a room and you start to feel the room, you are activating energy within you. Okay. It's other people, their frequency. It's like a quantum handshake. So you've got your field and you've got their field, and the fields start to touch and information gets transferred. Okay. So it's basically being an empath. It's like, am I going to take responsibility for what I'm feeling? And right away we say, okay, it's coming from this person. And egoically, I think we want to place the responsibility on somebody else. Say, oh, that's not my energy, that's their energy. Okay. And what we do is we kind of disempower ourselves in the moment, because we don't accept responsibility. If we're feeling it, it's something that's happening within us. We're just really sensitive. So there's something that's being projected from this person that is allowing something in that moment to come up within me. Maybe they're having a bad day. I sense that, I feel it, but it came up within me. So there's something happening in here that in that moment I have the opportunity to address. And if I could recenter myself because I get a little wobbly because they're having a bad day, then I have the ability in that moment to realign my field. And guess what? That realignment then speaks to their field, and that may help them on another level kind of
Right.
brighten their day a little bit. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, yeah,
So we
yeah.
always do the work within us, what's happening in here.
Yeah, not only are we all one, but we're all interconnected and all working together. And that's
Yeah.
why the more of us that do the work, the more of us that align, the more of us that are awakening, it is, I will use the word affecting
Yeah.
all the others that are not awake. It's all collectively raising the frequency of the planet to get us there through this ascension we're going
Hmm.
on, right?
Yeah. So like if somebody's sad and I feel sadness. I literally become sad in that moment because I feel it quantumly. They don't say anything to me, but our fields are
Yeah.
interacting and information is being transferred. I
Yeah.
have the ability in that moment to align myself, to acknowledge that sad aspect of me because that interaction allowed a sad aspect of me to come up. So I bring that aspect into my heart, love, compassion, and that information then gets transmitted to the other person. It basically is a reminder that they have the power and the ability to do the same thing within them. So that's how we as light workers change the world, by
Yeah.
monitoring ourselves, shifting ourselves, and making that energy, that frequency available to others. And the more of us that do that, the more that new earth starts to manifest on a collective level.
Yeah, because New Earth is a frequency, and by us raising our frequency, we then are able to perceive it for what it
Yeah.
is.
Yeah. I mean, I can't run around all day and say, none of this is me. That's his problem. That's her problem. That's all that. Because
Yeah,
then I'm not anchored in my lower chakras, right? I'm not taking
yeah.
responsibility for anything, right? But
Right.
yet I'm feeling it. So if I'm feeling it, it's me. It's mine, right? So something within me is coming up to be seen. That's
Yeah.
that's that's really
I,
what's
I like
happening.
that. That's interesting.
Yeah.
Once I saw in meditation this image of, imagine I'm standing here in the middle and everybody around me, like 100 people, are wearing prism mirrors,
Mm-hmm.
like all around them. So they have one in front, one on the side,
It's
one
like
in the
all
back.
distorted almost. Yeah.
Yeah, all of them had one, but everybody was looking in the mirror from
Yeah.
every angle, every direction, every, like, it was mind blowing. It helped
Yeah.
me understand more what we're talking about right now. So I was like, wow. And I drew it because it was, yeah, like a triangle prism mirror, and it was three on each person. So when you're looking at this, you have this angle, this angle, this angle, but same for that person. And it was like that, like a hundred
And
people.
everybody sees it differently, right? Based on
Yeah,
where they're at. But you have
yeah,
the ability to control where you're at.
yeah, 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 yeah.
And as an empath, I think a lot of people try to project out and say, okay, I'm going to help you. And as an energy healer too, I'm going to help you or heal you. Well, actually, what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring forward the version of me right now that represents really a more healed version of you, and make that energy available to you. Okay. And then
Yes,
that person has the ability to remember that they have the power themselves to heal.
yes. Beautiful,
So that's a
beautiful.
mindset shift, isn't it? Right.
It
Yeah.
is. And that's why people need a coach like you to help coach them through this.
Yeah.
So I just want to quickly bring up before we uh, shift away from this conversation, reality glitches and timeline shifts.
Hmm.
Us going up in frequency, us moving to the new earth frequency, how is that creating reality glitches for us and us shifting timelines?
Well, it's interesting because the more conscious and aware we become, we're always navigating through timelines. It's like this throughout our day. Okay.
Yeah.
Your frequency is constantly shifting. And a lot of times they're small shifts, and our brain, it has the ability to keep things in continuity. Okay. But our
Mm.
feelings, our emotions may tell us that something's a little off. Oh, okay. We just switched a timeline. But as we become more anchored and more grounded, we're able to perceive, because we're more aware, we're more conscious, we're able to start to experience some of these bigger jumps. And they manifest sometimes as glitches, where it could be like a glitch in the matrix where you've jumped a timeline, and all of a sudden you see it, you experience it, you're aware of it because you're more conscious in the moment. And it's a big enough jump where your brain really can't seamlessly piece it together, right? Because remember, we're just all processing experience after experience after experience.
Yeah, and the Schumann resonance will record those timeline shifts and show us, like you'll see like a black
It's like
bar.
a record of it. Yeah.
Yeah,
It's a record of the frequency and of the energy. But as we know, all these timelines are on different frequencies. When we look at it from the human brain, from the human perspective, we see frequency ladders, and all of these timelines, their home is like on its own dial on the radio, right? So we're
yeah,
constantly
yeah,
tuning in based on our vibration into different radio stations throughout our day, and that goes unknown because we're not aware of it because we're not in tune with what we're feeling really consciously. We're just like
yeah,
unconsciously being guided by our programming and
yeah.
by our beliefs.
And we're mentioning for the first time now the matrix. The matrix is for
Mm-hmm.
people that don't know, is more like a container of this reality right now that we are in, that we are experiencing, right?
Yeah, it's an electromagnetic projection of the frequency. Really, it's the
Yeah.
frequency of the collective because the collective power is
Yeah.
manifesting the earth. So we see chaos and all these things happening around the world because that's really the frequency that the collective is mostly dialed into. But we can hang in that. We can feel all of that. We could alchemize that, and we could shift in and out of that throughout our day.
Yeah, because as a collective, all our shadows coming up is
Mm-hmm.
projecting the reality we're
That's
in.
a big
Although,
signal, yeah, to the universe,
yeah,
right? Yeah. Hmm.
although we are on different timelines and everybody has their own individual reality, we still do
Yeah.
have a collective reality that we share, and all of us doing the work and
Hmm.
shifting.
We
It's,
experience that. We could see that
yeah,
because remember from as we get closer to 5D, that wheel analogy, the hub, you start to
yeah,
be able to see all of it below. So we see all that, but we have the ability to really observe it and not identify it as much as maybe we had years ago.
yeah, yeah. So I'd like quickly to touch on angel
Okay.
numbers. How are angel numbers guiding us? What
Well,
are
they
they?
are they're synchronicities. They're from higher aspects of us, our higher self and our guides that really allow us to remember that we are on course. Okay. Now, different
Right,
angel numbers have different meanings. It depends on where your belief is and what resonates with you. So there are messages in there based on where you're at. So you meet it where you're at in that moment. Okay. Like for me, I see fives. Four's a lot, five's a lot, but five, five, five,
yeah.
five, and that number I know is around really, really related to my mom who had passed away back in
Oh,
2018. I see that.
wow.
So when I see that number, and that number, I mean, technically it represents transformation or change, right? But I
Mhm.
know when I feel it, it represents my mom. So when I see that, it makes me instantly think of my mom, and then instantly, it's almost like a little portal opens up and
Right.
I can lean in and connect with her. So these are like little
Mhm.
remembrances, little synchronicities, little breadcrumbs throughout our experience to remind us of who we are.
Yeah, it's our guidance talking to us because these are
Hmm.
numbers of the universe, basically. And just in this
Yeah.
call alone, I've seen 5555, 333, and
Yeah.
111.
Yeah.
And I'm like, wow, definitely.
So yeah, and the brain wants to overanalyze everything, but to me,
Yeah,
I've pulled away from that. I used to be like, what does this mean? What does that mean? What does everything? It's
right.
just what are you feeling? And to me, these are like winks from your higher self, your guides, the universe, however you want to term it, and knowing that hey, you're present, you're conscious in this moment, you're remembering.
Yeah, and you're on the right path. And I think that's
Yes.
important for people to remember and take away from this call for sure is that conversation is that you're always on the right path. You're always being guided. You're never alone. You have your spiritual guides with you, just
Hmm.
like you have Pleiadian guides that are talking to you because you can hear them, right? You can hear, you
Yes.
can have conversations, which is
Hmm.
clairaudience,
Hmm.
an ability, a gift that you remembered and now you're connecting. Everybody's coming back to that. And even if you're in a dark night of the soul, even if you are going through some shadow work that's making you feel pain inside your heart and crying, or embrace that moment, because you feel you're not on the highest timeline in this particular
Yeah.
moment, it doesn't mean that you're not. It means you are in the highest timeline for you right now, on the right path. And that pretty much, it's like an elastic band. The lower you go, when you let it go, the higher you're
Yeah.
going to spring back up.
Yeah. And when
Right?
you're feeling sad, when you're feeling separate, disconnected, spiritually depressed, however it is that you may be feeling that you're doing something wrong, right? Know that that is what you need to find love for in that moment. And that's your awakening moment. It's like in that moment when you remember that you can choose how you feel. Okay. And if I could
Yeah.
bring this into love and I could close my eyes and I could think of something that makes me feel or experience love and compassion in this moment, and I could breathe it into my heart space while feeling this heaviness, we alchemize it and you feel lighter. And that's your higher self, your guides, right? Showing you that's the doorway, that's the path through in this moment. So don't resist those moments, embrace them because that's your guidance.
Yeah, because, audience, guys, beautiful souls out there going through all of this, you are never alone. You're never
Mm-hmm.
alone. There's always your guides with you. And you have people like Mark that does consciousness coaching and soul integration, to also assist you in case you have a moment of really huge misalignment, or if you have questions, if you'd like confirmation, if you'd like assistance, because you're always on the right track. Even if you're going through a shadow work, I feel this is so important right now for me to say again,
Yeah.
like, it's only bringing you down a little more for you to bounce back up a little more. And every
Yep.
time you keep doing this motion, right? And you have interesting, beautiful quotes that you post on your YouTube, on your Facebook, Mark, Marks. There's more than one of you right now
Many,
here.
many, right? Yeah. Of many different
Be,
names, I'm sure.
yeah,
Yeah.
like, be water. The lie of unworthiness ends here and now.
Yeah.
Don't believe everything you think. Healing is not about fixing yourself, but about remembering who you truly are, and allow the path to unfold the way it's
Mm-hmm.
meant to,
Yeah.
right? Is
Yeah.
there anything you'd like to add to these quotes, or to anything we've been talking about today that is so fascinating?
Yeah, I think the important thing to just reiterate is that you are not going through this alone, and you have so much courage and
Yeah.
support for choosing this journey, and it is such a profound and important one that each one of you watching this is going through. So find that love in your heart. I know that Caroline and I we're holding space for each
Yeah.
person watching this in this moment, and know that you are worth it, you are worthy, and everything that you're seeking you already have within. It's just a matter of kind of clearing the way to be able to access that. And that's working through those emotions when they come up, those heavy emotions, and alchemizing that. And you'll realize that your path will
Yeah.
start to really brighten up.
Yeah. We are on the path of remembrance.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And it's a beautiful one if we just allow it to be beautiful. And even in tears, and even in moments that are not so high frequency, it's still a beautiful moment.
Yeah. That's the
So,
gold, really. Yeah.
yeah, it is. And it's only getting better from here. So I want
Mm-hmm.
people to know it's only going to get better from here. Like,
Yeah, just be accepting and allowing when these
yeah,
aspects come up of you come up to be seen and to be felt. Love them, and know that you're becoming more whole. And all of those things that you're searching for up here, they're going to start to come forward.
yeah, we're not broken. You've said it. I've
Nope.
heard it before, even from my own Akashic records. We are not broken. We are simply remembering, and we're simply integrating all of
Yeah.
us to be whole again and to be the amazing soul Christ consciousness, the amazing oneness that we all are. We're just remembering that. And I think it's such a beautiful thing we're going through right now. No matter what out there, just remember that. And
Yes.
if you do want to work with Marc, Marc has a website that I will post below the link.
Mhm.
You're on Facebook, you're on Instagram, you're on YouTube. There's beautiful videos you share that
Yeah.
is helping many to understand certain topics, subjects, and also it helps bring guidance, right?
Definitely, yeah, yeah. Through all of the phases of awakening. So it's really good to start with YouTube. If somebody is looking for one-on-one, definitely visit my website at soulintegrationcoach.com. There's all the
Okay,
information there and all the links and everything right there. So that's probably the best place to start.
perfect. Marc, thank you so much for being on Buzz Your
Oh,
Spirit.
thank you for having me.
Thank you. It
So
was
much
my
fun.
pleasure. Yeah, it was very exciting. I
Mhm.
really loved having you, and I'll see you again on YouTube because I love watching your stuff, and it has helped me a lot throughout my awakening. So thank you so much, and have a beautiful day.
Thank you. You too.
Bye.